And there again is our fun, snazzy intro. I just have a shout out to my colleague Mario Badia, who designs that video for me. I just say, like, Mario, can you do a new video? And he pulls out the stops. But here we are. It's OEWeek Live. I'm your host, Alan Levine, and I get to have all the fun here because I get to talk to interesting people like Peter. No, oh gosh, I didn't even ask. Musser is that
Musser?
Musser. Darn it! Sorry.
Just say, no muss, no fuss.
The most that'll be easy, but those are the things like a professional broadcaster would take care of ahead of time, and I don't. But Peter will tell him about himself, but he's with ISKME and OER Commons, and it's just been a fun collaboration of an idea. I just wrote them and said, I'm thinking about doing this thing for Open Education Week, and Peter and the teams and Mindy and Lisa have been all aboard with this. So, Peter, let us know where you're calling in from, like location, but also what is that room that you're in?
Oh yeah, so I am calling in from New Westminster, British Columbia, fellow person in Canada, also Canadian, but also American, and we are coming to you live from the Musser Hall Auditorium and Sound. No, it's just my home office. Yeah.
Well, great.
Got some art from my kid.
Yeah. And you work for this thing called OER Commons. What's that all about?
Yeah, so OER Commons is a public digital library of open educational resources. We've got around, on any given day, somewhere around 120, 130,000 pieces of OER. That could be a textbook, a lesson plan, any kind of course material you can think of. We also have a platform called OpenAuthor that lets anyone who wants to make an account go and make their own OER and structure it and edit it and make it accessible and all that jazz. And OER Commons is a project of ISKME, which is the Institute for the Study of Knowledge Management in Education. And we, ISKME and OER Commons, have been around since around 2006, 2007. And we're still going strong. Yeah,
definitely. And so we're going to screen sharing mode, and we're going to do this informally and talk about this idea that we came up with to create this collaboration between OEGlobal and ISKME. And I'm just going to pull up my screen share right now. So the whole premise is Open Education Week has been around since about 2012, and typically until about 2 years ago. Part of it, we do the thing with all the events, so we put together, the whole idea is that there's a sharing of events calendar that people are running independently around the world. And the whole thing is just to draw attention. It's not a conference. It's all disaggregated, and people say like, hey, I'm going to run this event and I'll share the information about it with you. But the other piece of it has always been collecting, we call them open assets, but they're open resources. And we did that, it's the logical thing. You say, well, we want to create a collection of resources. We put up a web form, you type in a title, you send us a picture, a link, and a description, and we put it into our own little database. And we've done that over the years and, accumulated, a couple hundred, 1,500 things. And it always seemed to me like, why are we creating another little collection? I mean, it's not so little when there are these other larger commons out there, such as OER Commons, that we could still do the same thing, but instead of putting it in our little database, put it into the big one, and then everybody wins. So this was the idea that I proposed, and you all went along with it. So we're working with OER Commons this year as one of our partners, and we're asking people to go through, and we'll go through this process, to create an account if they don't have one, and then do a couple things to share something during Open Education Week. Now, the thing is, it can be, people's first things are, well, these are the open resources that I've been involved with in my projects, and I want to add them. That's fantastic. But we would also like people to consider, as they're going about attending the events of Open Education Week, clicking on links in social media, coming across new resources that they might not be aware of, that they sort of take the effort to send the information to OER Commons so they can add it to their collection too. So do you think this will work, Peter?
Gosh, I sure hope so. I think so. I think so.
Yeah. And so just so people know, when they come to my little getting started page that I'll flash up on screen right now, the whole idea is, just break down to basic steps, and I'll show you. So, basically you create an account. We do it all the time on OER Commons. And so, and then maybe, if you haven't been there, go look around OER Commons. But then, and these are the steps I'll show you what we're going to do. But the way it worked with Peter and his team's advisement was to create a group within OER Commons. And this is something that anybody can do, right, Peter?
It is, yeah. We did slightly change the process recently. So now instead of when you click the create a group button, it just goes straight into creating a group with like no guidance. Now, when you click the create group button, it sends me an email and it asks for a little bit of information from the person who's asking for the group. I review that. I set the group up, put in some information for folks to start with, and then send them a nice little welcome to OER Commons email.
And I mean, we'll go to what's the idea, the thinking. Why did you go about creating groups within the Commons?
Yeah, so we understand that like OER Commons is this big library, and folks would oftentimes like to sort things for themselves. And so anyone who's a user on OER Commons, they can save resources that they find on OER Commons to their own accounts. But nobody is an island, right? And so we wanted to make sure that we had some kind of functionality that would really enable that kind of community, that sense of community for folks who might not otherwise have somewhere to do that. And by doing it on OER Commons, we make sure that it's just a minimal amount of effort to get the resources that you're trying to find and share to the people that you're trying to find and share them with.
Right.
And since we can do it for free, we do it for free. All you need is an account.
All right, that's very good. And I'm just going to go into what we're asking people to do. It is spelled out there on that site, but the usual thing: you create an account, and hopefully you put a little picture and do all that. But what we want you to do, and we have the link, and you can find it as well from the group's search area in OER Commons, but I'll jump right there. We decided to create a group for Open Education Global, not just Open Education Week or just this year, because we'd like to do more of this. And so what happens is that people join this group, and so I will click this button, and see, I'm already in the group, just like that. And so there are things that you can get. You can see the other people in the group. You can see information about it. You can see activity. You can have discussions. You can do this. But the ask that we're doing is that we add to like this shared folder within Open Education Week of things that people are contributing in association with these activities around March 2025. And so there are, two angles to sharing. So one is like, well, what if I don't, necessarily have something, or I can't think of one at the moment. So what you can do is you can, go about and search in OER Commons. And so there's lots of ways to search and find content, etc. But I've already gone ahead and I decided, I saw this one that's in Spanish. It's Introduction to Calculus, Vector Calculus, which I barely remember. And I just say, like, the reason it could just be something, it doesn't have to be brand new. It doesn't have to be, just something that caught your eye. Maybe it's in a discipline, or you think you might use it, or you heard someone mention it during, a presentation this week. And if you are logged into OER Commons and you come across something, all we ask you to do is save it. And let's see.
You'll want to refresh the page, yeah.
Yeah. You know exactly what happened, because now I'm in the group. So now it lists the group that I'm available in, and I want to save it within the Open Education Week folder. And ideally, when I come back to the group, this will be in this folder already. And if I look at recent activity, see, it could say, look, I already added this thing to the group. And so that's all we're asking people to do is add things to this group. Add 1, add 5, add 100. And you can do things that are within OER Commons already. The other route, which is actually really fascinating for the way it works, is if you've come across something that doesn't exist in OER Commons, you can add it to OER Commons. So I did a little bit of searching around, and I found some open access books on the history of Mexico. And so what you really need is just the web address. That's all you need to get started. And when you come back to, I have so many tabs where I am, we're going to say, contribute to this group and submit from the web. And this is as easy as it is. You put the URL, and this page does not exist. Well, I picked a bad example.
So what happened, basically, on the back end, our server, it takes a URL and it pings it, and it says, hey, are you there? And most servers are set up so that they will just go and say, oh yeah, I'm here. Here's what I've got. But for some sources, so like JSTOR and Elsevier and the larger publishers, they will see the heading. So when our server does that, it identifies itself. You know, I'm a server. I'm not a person. I'd like this information. And the JSTOR server says, nah, we're for people. So it'll bounce that back. We're working on fixing that. But
no,
Pressbooks is a great example. Yeah.
You know, Peter, like I always like to say when I do these demos, like I'm not scared of messing up because it shows that I'm human, and that's what happens to most people. So instead, I just found a title from eCampus Ontario, and we will do this test. So basically, first of all, it does some interesting things along the way. It's able, because from Pressbooks and other publishing platforms, it already knows the authors, which is really handy. And then what I would do, and I'm not going to take the time to do it now in this demo, I might clean up the title, and I might go back and I might copy, the description. And is that an okay thing to do, Peter, or do you expect people to write like full? How much of a description would you like?
So what we provide, because we also go and collect resources, whatever's there, we count as, the source of truth. So if that's the description they have, that's the description they provide. Yeah.
And then it obviously has to have a license, and usually it's pretty clear, but sometimes you have to do some digging, and sometimes it's not there. And then there's a couple other options. Can I just skip these for now?
You can skip any of the ones that don't have a star.
Okay. So I have to do media format.
You don't have to do media formats, but the ones above media formats.
Oh yeah, gotcha. So I will do career and technical education. I'm just going to do this really quickly. You'll correct it when I submit it, right, Peter?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not a game. Here we go. Textbook and languages, English. And it is recommended to do other things. Just for fun, I've been adding an OEWeek 25 tag. I don't know if that messes things up. Just because I like tagging things. And then we submit it. And then again, the thing that your site does automatically, if it can find the cover image, it's able to pull it from the website, right?
That's right. Yeah. So our servers have a little bit of a simulated browser, and it'll pull the text, whatever the URL is, up and take a screenshot of that and stick it there, which saves folks a lot of time when they do it through the front end. Yeah.
And then, or you could just, if you say like, I have a better image, or I think this would be a better image, you can customize that. Yeah.
That's right.
And then we do this submit and review, and then I'm done. I've done my thing, but like what happens on your side, Peter, when you get one of these?
Yeah, so let's see how presenting works on my end. Let's share screen. Easiest with two monitors. Great. give it a second, and I will share this screen. All right, so on the back end, we have a list of records that come in. And this shows basically, this is how the sausage is made. This is what I look at, and this is the list of all of the resources that are submitted from the web. We want to just look at things that are pending, so things that folks have submitted to us. And hey, there we go, 2025 automotive service technician. I'll zoom in. I know my screen's a bit small. So we'll click on that. And that will take me to the record that we just saw you submit. So we've got the title, abstract. What we do then is we go through and review. Usually we'll open up the resource in another window. And then we'll compare the metadata that's been supplied to the resource we've got. So this is Centennial College, which I think we've already got as a provider. Centennial, yep, Centennial College. We are probably going to publish this. We make sure everything else is kosher. We see a keyword. I might also add some keywords. So auto service technicians, I might say automotive repair. I might go and add a more specific headline. So yeah, automotive technology repair. And then we can nix that. But I might want to add their keyword CTE to improve searchability. Oh, but not here, because that's general subjects. And then we will think about who the primary user is. That would be student, possibly teacher as well, because they're the ones who are more likely to find it on OER Commons. Grade doesn't really apply. Media formats. This is both a text HTML file, but it's also a downloadable doc, because we know you can download Pressbooks as PDFs.
Right.
Other things, we just try and be as complete as we can with these. This is just straight up curriculum instruction. It's textual, it's visual.
This is the librarian at work.
Yeah, very thrilling, I know. Media feature. Nothing here. Hopefully alternative text. I'm not going to mark that, though, because I'm not going to go and look right now.
Yeah.
We are working right now. We have big plans to actually make it so that you can search the full text of resources as well. So we've got this box, but right now it doesn't do anything. And then this is where the juicy bits come in. I will go here, make sure CC by NDSA, CC by N, was it ND or NC? Oh, NC.
I might have
Yep, no, you were right. You got it
okay.
right. We see these authors. I might double check this to make sure that those are the authors we want to use. Yeah, so since it's a college produced thing, so I would leave that. Otherwise, I might take that out just because we want to reflect the people who are there, and we capture that author up here in the provider cell. We also have the advantage of being able to say, oh, well, I happen to know that this textbook is part of a series that Centennial College has, because they have a student program handbook for most of their programs.
Okay.
I would fill some of that in here, and I could define the relationship as, oh, is related to. I could indicate like, oh, this is part of a series that they've done. And this particular metadata, the related materials, isn't visible in the front end, but it's really useful for us when we're going and managing, 120, 130,000 records.
Right.
But otherwise, everything looks pretty great. The only thing I want to do right here, keywords. So let's say CTE. That's where I want to put the keywords. And let's say student handbook. And then we go to, usually I just click save, but we'll do save and continue editing. And once I click that button, successfully changed. And now that resource is published. So anyone can go find that textbook on OER Commons. And thank you very much, Alan, for adding another resource.
Hey, I think it's fun to do that. And like, what's the level of activity and how many people are responsible for doing the review there?
Oh, well, we actually have a full-time team of librarians that do this work every single day. There's two people.
Right.
It's me and it's my colleague Chris, who's the metadata librarian for us. We review all of those resources, both ones that are submitted from web and resources that people use the open author platform to create.
Right.
We do that every single day. shout out to Chris who makes sure that those records are actually, because he does most of that work for me. And without him, we would not have records. So
yeah. Excellent. And I'm going to come back here and just on my side as the person who submitted it. When I come into the group, now I don't know if this is the best way to do it. I can go into recent activity. I often, oh no, this doesn't have, okay. Yeah, I might go into recent activity and I can see that, yes, my stuff got added to this group. What I was doing behind the scenes, and this is the fun part about what we're doing, is as sort of like the manager here of our group, I'm able to see things that come in and I'm able to take them. They're sitting in our group folder, which is fine, but that's not highly public. So Peter and his team have kindly been able to create, they have these things called curated collections, which other groups have been doing. And look, there's one for us. And so in here, we have this collection that we're building for Open Education Week. There's 43 things that have been added, already now before Open Education Week. I would like to see that go up by an order of magnitude. Sorry. And if you wanted to, you could, I usually go by date added. So I can see some of the newest stuff that I don't know if that reflects the date it was added to OER Commons, probably.
Yeah, that's the date that it adds.
Yeah. But when you're here, there's lots of ways, of course, to sort and find things, and then you can filter it by all of the things that went into those fields that you saw me enter and Peter actually add to it, and that's what makes it really valuable, is to be able to find things. So, the goal here is that we produce this collection of all things that people shared from around the time of Open Education Week, put into OER Commons, and we're able to sort of make it highlighted here in our curated collection, which that's exactly the dream of what I had hoped to do.
Awesome. Yeah.
And then the other thing I want to mention is like adding things is really great, but the other things that we'd like people to consider doing is when they're looking through things, either in our group folder or in the collection, is actually take some time to look, if you see something that's of interest, look at it. We click the view resource button and we actually, of course, leave OER Commons, and we get to see this listening as a shared social practice from University of Regina. Hello, they're just an hour away from me down the road. And what you can do is you can rate it, which would help. Like, this is fantastic. And that will help in the sorting capabilities. The other thing is that I think it would be valuable to the people who share is to add a comment. Like if you said, I found chapters 5 and 6 really appropriate for use in this class, or we decided to adopt this OER in our sort of curriculum. So, yes, adding things is really helpful, but also just rating and adding comments, I think, is a worthy activity in OER Commons. And that was more or less what I wanted to do, is to sort of show the steps that we're asking people to do. Sometimes, Peter, I don't know, it's like, is it asking too much? Or,
I think it can feel like a lot if you're just getting started. But one of the really cool things about OER Commons, along with like open education and the open access movement generally, is like it's very much a community thing, right? And so I think, and we can see from just the number of resources we have, the number of folks that have accounts on OER Commons, that like people get invested. And I think folks are invested in making open education resources available to others. And for our part at ISKME, we do what we can to minimize the amount of work that folks have to do, while also maintaining I like to think, decently high standard of quality around metadata, because that's what really helps people find these resources. And so, we try not to ask too much. That's why not all of those fields that you filled out were required.
Right.
We're happy to do some work on our end to finish that for you. But anything that you can contribute is very welcome.
And also in the time I've been adding things, what you end up doing is you sort of create your own collection of things that you like. You can put them into your own folders, and you can collect resources for different projects or different interests. It's very easy to share. You can just say like, wow, it'd be good if our teaching and learning center could actually create our own group and we can do some of this activity. So the other hope in having people who haven't spent much time here is to say like, look, there's lots of ways that OER Commons might be useful for you as a resource on its own.
That's right. Yeah, and we super appreciate when you reached out by email. You're like, hey, Peter, I was thinking, and you got like way ahead. I think it was like July or August. You emailed to me. You're like, hey, Peter, I was thinking about Open Education Week. You want to collaborate? I was like, of course, yes, I do, because like we only exist because we want to help people find these things, right? I love it. It's a little bit more work for me now that like group requests go to me, but like I also love the fact that I see, oh, someone from this organization just reached out and wants to create a group, and they want to create a group around this topic, or like even just going through resources that are in the collection that people submit. It's like, oh, I didn't know that people cared about, for example, like abnormal psychology. Like now I'm just going to casually flip through this textbook as I add metadata to it and see like, oh, there's some neat things out there. And it also helps me think about, what kind of resources can we bring into the collection that are going to be of use to people. So one thing about adding resources to OER Commons that I think is worth mentioning is we don't take just anything. There is like a base level of quality. We want to make sure that when folks are creating resources, they're doing it in a way that's actually helpful to others. And so to facilitate that, I think I'm going to share my screen again real quick, if that's okay.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So I'm, I guess, not really new to this position anymore, but I stepped into this role back in 2023, around June. And one of my big priorities was I wanted to make sure that we, ISKME, OER Commons, were accountable to people when we decided like, hey, we're going to add this or we're not going to add that. And the best way I could think of doing that, coming from a public librarian background, was we should have a collection policy. And so you can find it in a couple places. One is right here, and then the other is in our help center. And I took like a year to write this and draft it. And I worked with my colleagues at ISKME, who are also librarians, and folks who weren't as well, to make sure that it made sense to everybody. And we came up with as thoughtful of a collection policy as I think we could manage. And that's just right here. I went to our help center, and under submit, we've got a few things that if you're thinking about submitting resources to OER Commons, you should have a look at.
Right.
This is a bit of a read, so I'll just show it for a second, because it is a policy document. But if you want to understand like why we do what we do, you can always start here. Okay. Like ISKME, we have a mission statement, and that drives everything that we do. And as a result, like the mission statement for OER Commons reflects that. We want to foster equitable and inclusive learning environments that support the more just societies around the world that we want to be a part of. And we try to do that by providing the platform that allows anyone to find, create, use, and share high quality, freely available, open educational resources. That's what drives us. Like there's the meat and potatoes of how we actually choose resources that you can look at as well. But for a more user-friendly thing, when in doubt, have a look at our, I believe it is submission quality guidelines, submission guidelines right here. And this basically tells folks what we're looking for. OER is a big thing. And I think if I could tell folks one thing, make sure, well, I guess two things. One is make sure that the resource is openly licensed. We check to make sure that that's the case, but oftentimes folks will submit something to OER Commons and the terms aren't actually clear when we go to the resource itself. And if we can't find on that resource that you've added something that says, oh, it's got a Creative Commons license, or it has educational use only somewhere on the site, we won't actually add that because we don't want to put our users at risk of using something that's under copyright when they think that it's free and open to use.
Right.
The other big thing that we often see, and I'm only mentioning this because I saw it in the the OEGlobal activity log is we want to make sure that when you add resources, when we're adding resources, we're pointing to discrete resources. So appropriately granular to facilitate ease of user access means we don't want to point to a database of resources. We want to point to like a specific resource. We don't want to point to Pressbooks. We want to point to a Pressbook.
Right.
And we will make records for all of the Pressbooks if they come to us. And we're always trying to bring more in. But sometimes folks will submit links to just lists of resources.
Yeah.
And it hurts our heart because we're like, I would love to get some of this in, but this isn't what we're looking for. So
that makes sense. It's definitely a library issue, right?
Exactly. But we also do our best with that. And so when we get those lists, we do try and go and find the time to go through that list and then add those resources one at a time.
Yeah.
Time permitting. So.
All right. I have two questions. One is like, can you specify like certain areas where you think there's a need for that people should contribute? Like either content, language, parts of the world? Like where would you like to fill some parts of OER Commons?
Well, so always near and dear to my heart is materials and languages other than English. I love the fact that OEGlobal is OEGlobal, right? And I think that while it's great that there is so much OER out there that's in English, I think that we would be best served. We would do our best job serving other communities by meeting them where they are. And so if you have or you know of resources in languages other than English, especially resources in languages other than English written by people who speak that language, that's amazing. Bring those on in. Like we want everything, of course, but like materials in languages other than English is a big one for me. Maybe the biggest, if we want to be specific, like OER Commons has a lot over so many topics. So, and we're always looking for more, but yeah, whatever you got, send it our way.
All right, you heard it. And you know, I made an effort because we had a webinar last week with the incredible story of the librarian Tatiana Kovaleska at the Ukrainian Institute of Science and Technology, and they have a set of at least 16 or 20 OERs that were produced in Ukrainian. So I went in and grabbed one, and yeah, I was able to put it in. I had to do a little bit of hijinks with Google Translate, but that's certainly doable. And you know, I'm hoping people will pick up on that to look for titles that are in other languages that you said it, and you know, and just things that might be, you know, kind of, you know, unique. I mean, I just came across that one from eCampus Ontario, and it's like, you know, it's something about automotive, you know, technician or something. And so, yeah, we have lots of stuff on, you know, grammar and you know, history, but to think about things in the trades and the vocational skills would probably be something adding in there. And
absolutely. So CTE, career and technical education, is a big field, and we're actually seeing a lot of interest in that as of late, and we're working with some partners to bring more career and technical education resources in, because like when we think about, you know, open educational resources that have high impact on the folks that use them, career fields, like the trades, love trades. And trades are a way to make sure that a person has some economic security. And so we want to bring resources like that in. We love highlighting them. They transfer much better than my librarian skills. So if you want to become a librarian, you know, there's never been a better time to become an electrician. Yeah.
There you go. And then I want to ask, like, as you're going through your daily process of looking at things that come in, how often does it happen that you kind of get a little bit distracted being curious, and when you go out to check something and you find yourself like, oh, I'm, you know, going a little bit in deeper? Does that happen?
Oh yeah, all the time. I dare say most of the time that's what happens.
Yeah.
Like in those moments where we're not crunched for time, because we generally every day we get somewhere between like 3 and 40 resources to review from the community,
Right.
Not including resources that we ourselves have gone and found.
Yeah.
We go through all of them and we look at all of them, and we'll find things that are just fascinating. Like I mentioned the abnormal psychology one, which was for a textbook, I want to say down at Oregon State from a few years back. There's a press book around male witches in medieval Europe. It's like, I never thought about this as a thing.
Yeah.
And now I'm reading it. This is interesting.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, is there any like titles that came in that just like jumped out at you? It said like, I can't believe there's an OER for that.
Yeah, sometimes there's that, like the ones I mentioned. But then the other thing that like kind of warms my heart when I see it is when we see trends, right? Because like it's not just the individual resources we see coming in, but I can tell you that like educators, specifically K through 12 educators from Brazil, are killing it when it comes to environmentally sound education resources and resources around protecting the environment for young people. And that's amazing. Like,
say more about that, what you're seeing.
Yeah, well, one of the cool things about that is I think that there are a number of, at least one university somewhere in Brazil that it's a teacher training school. And so as one of their activities, and like I haven't been able to confirm this, but I think one of their activities for the teachers to learn how to teach is they go onto open author on OER Commons, and they make lesson plans around different environmental topics in their context. And we've gotten a number of those, and it's a little bit tricky because like I speak Spanish, but I don't speak Portuguese. But my friend Google Translate helps me get through that. And so between those and like we also see a lot of like theses coming from those teachers as well getting added. Like it's great. It's so cool. I can't wait to like, it always makes me feel extra warm when I see one of those.
Fantastic. Well, I started to go down my rabbit hole to see if I can find them, but we'll do that later. But I think that's fascinating, and just want to thank you so much, and everybody at ISKME and OER Commons for taking on this idea. And again, just letting people know this is the starting point. If you want to, it should be easy enough that you can get started going. Hope to see you join the group. I get a nice notification, and it makes my heart just go, yay, someone joined us. And then when they add things, which is great. So I saw Shawana Nilsson from University of Regina came last week and added like 6 things, which is fantastic. And so that's what we're hoping to see happen during Open Education Week. We're going to start out, we had the 42 or 43 that we kind of, we're the build up now. And I would like to say that we're going to see a big ramp up. And I don't know, are you gonna be able to make the next week? I sent out an invitation. I'm gonna do a wrap up, and whether you make it or not is fine. But
well, let me check. I'll get back to you.
Okay.
Possibly next week is busy, understandably, but I'll see.
No problem. You gave us this time, but like on the last day of Open Education Week, the official one, because we know it continues going on. I have a group of people coming in, and we'll just kind of share reflections, but I will be kind of summarizing what we've been able to come up with through this. And it's not going to end. It's not like we're going to close the doors on the collection. And I'm really happy because I think having this experience, I'm thinking about other ways in OEGlobal we can frame some activities around OER Commons.
Yeah. Well, I just looked at my calendar and I RSVP'd yes, so I'll see you there.
Okay. I thought so, but I didn't want to assume, Peter. So yeah, it'll be fun. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. And
of course, thank you.
Monday, everything is happening. It's Open Education Week. Yeah.
Yeah. Get your party poppers.
That's right. So we're going to go out with our video, and thank you again, Peter, so much.
Thanks, Alan.